Today, I'd like to talk about a legendary headphone in its own right, something that represents an evolution and a step forward into a modern cult classic, the Fostex T20RP. So, T20RP was released about 10 or 11 years after the original T20 in 1988. It obviously underwent some changes. It no longer has the perfectly round shape of the previous generation. This is the T10, but the T20 was basically the same shape with just a larger lip for bigger earpads. So now you have the classic square shape with still round baffles, but before the classic square-shaped drivers, which we all know today from the current T50RP Mark II and 3 and 4 lines, is the round driver. So the round driver is probably exactly the same as the previous one from the original T20, but the RP series is easily recognizable because of, well, the square back and the RP logo, which stands for regulated phase. You've got the same headband system, so the rubberized Fostex logo. These things, these are kind of rare. They don't make these anymore. And these were only available in this very old version, sort of a suspension foam strap to make it more comfortable. I don't know why they got rid of that, because these headphones are extremely uncomfortable without it. And same goes for the Mark II. They kept the same sort of design language with the two rods. The T20 had a very similar kind of design language. Grills on the side, grills vertically. One of the bigger changes is the introduction of detachable cables, which in 1988 was an extremely new, welcome feature. There's not many headphones doing that, especially not in the studio scene, where this belongs in the studio. So obviously, yeah, these are not the original pads. These are Shure SRH 840 pads. Yeah, you've got the cable that goes from one side to the other. The ball socket joint, it's more of well, it's not really a ball socket, but it's similar. It's kind of a weak point for this headphone. Those are known to break, especially in these older ones. But that's not what we're here to see today. We are going to take a look at the driver, which is something I'm prepared to do today with this particular model. I haven't done a proper driver teardown for a while, but these old Fostex drivers are so easy to do, and they are extremely reliable, hard-wearing, and there's very little risk in doing it. Famous last words. These drivers are very similar to the old T10 drivers in here. The only difference is the grill pattern. Well, not the grill pattern, but the pattern of the magnet holes. So here you've got an almost random looking series of holes, but they're not. You get a circle of 3, a circle of whatever number, another circle. So there is some method here. Actually, while I'm in here, I'll just take out an old mod that I was trying out and didn't actually do anything. There we go. Okay, and let's have a look at the driver. The good thing about these old planar drivers is that the magnets are kind of weak. So you can take them apart very easily, well, at least with very low risk compared to other drivers. So at this point, when there's 2 left, keep pressure down on this side where I'm taking out the 3rd screw. Put pressure down on all sides when I'm taking out the last screw, and then very gently lift it up. The magnets do most of the work because they're repelling, and that's that. So there's the magnet in all its glory. Looks like there's some tiny cracks going on in the center, but that's nothing to worry about. And the very thin paper damping. Let's take a closer look at that. Yeah. Quite thin. Anyway, this is the more interesting part. You can actually remove this completely, the diaphragm, revealing the second magnet underneath. All right, let's get a closer look. There we go. How'd you like that? That's how they used to make them back in the day. And at this point, actually, it might be worth checking that I've got the magnets aligned the right way. So let's do that quickly. Yes. Okay. Put that back in. Looks like I've got a plus symbol here, which should be on the other side. So I'll quickly check if that orientation also works. And I was just mistaken earlier. This magnet's not rotating, is it? Oh, it is. It can rotate. Okay. So I think I need to rotate it slightly anti-clockwise to get the correct alignment. Maybe that was a bit too much. Let's go clockwise again a little bit. Yep, that looks perfect to me. So let's pop that back in. Yeah, these magnets are weak. Not as difficult as the RP18 I did last time. As usual, always screw backwards until you hear a small click. Nope, no click on this one. Okay. Yeah, that one had a small thud. When you hear the little thud, you know you've reached the start of the thread. And then there's no danger of rethreading and destroying the old threads. Good. Pop that back in. So that notch represents the bottom, and that slots into that notch there. There we go. Now it pops in. It does pop in, and it shouldn't move. One of the cables was between the sandwich. The sandwich is the technical term for that. So, interesting point. These are one of the few headphones that I regret selling. A long time ago, I think over 8 years ago, before I had the mini DSP ears and started this insane journey of measuring headphones and making my enormous database of vintage headphones, etc., which actually now this week has over 500 graphs, by the way. Yeah, I sold this one originally, and I quite liked the sound of it. But it wasn't the best I had, and I needed some money, so whatever. I sold it. These were the original pads I used on the first copy that I owned, because I thought it sounded really quite good. Better than the stock pads, which I don't have here. The stock pads they sounded more warm and thick. Bass was lower, treble was also lower. But now, with these Shure SRH 840 pads, it's almost neutral. A very, very clean kind of studio sound. I'm not sure if there's something wrong with one of the drivers in this headphone, because I'm getting some bass imbalance, but it's not super noticeable because it's in the sub-bass region. But treble's been brought up a lot more by these pads, bass up a lot more, and now it's neutral with that warm kind of hump around 100 hertz to 400 hertz. You don't get that bright, agile, thin sound that you do in some Sony studio headphones. You get a much thicker sound, which is not inaccurate. The timbre is actually really quite good, and the detail, it's fair, maybe 7 or 8 out of 10 for detail, which is plenty in most situations. It's a fun, smooth sounding headphone. Obviously it's not as good as I remember it, because it's been quite a while, and since then I have acquired many more much better headphones. But it was one that I regret selling nonetheless, because it measured pretty decently, which I only could discover or rediscover after having got the second model again. Some things to watch out for. If you do want to get one of these, or you have one already, I would recommend these pads easily. I've rolled some other pads, for example, the Audio-Technica HPW5000 pads. Those actually are fair replacements. Very similar kind of response. Pads are a little bit flatter, so they're maybe a little bit closer to the original sound and the original comfort, and they make very fair alternatives. Would recommend those pads. Another set of pads I wouldn't recommend are the Ori pads. That's the ZMF Ori. So any pads, those shape and size, no, it just gets too warm, too thick, too boomy. And then another set of pads that gets even worse is something like the Fostex TH9000 Mark II pads. That just goes into ultra thick, warm, boomy territory. Doesn't sound good. You're going to have a bad day. So I think the reason why these pads work so well is, well, firstly, they have a decent kind of shape here. Nice big cavity for your ear, and they are perforated on the back. What this does, it elevates the bass a lot. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it might be because of this particular material they use, it really brings out the treble, which is something that was lacking in these headphones to start with. I don't know what the magic sauce is here, but these add a V shape to any headphone you put on them. So yeah, something to look out for. And that's the genuine pads, not the aftermarket ones. You don't want those for every headphone. Anyway, it was nice to revisit these after so many years and finally make it a part of my database. So That's it for now. Next week we'll be looking at another Fostex headphone. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.